Well, good evening, everybody. It's 6:30. Will, are you there?
I am. Give me 1 second to get us fully streaming. Okay, we can get going.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Parks and Waterfront Committee of Community Board 8. Will, do you want to do your little speech?
Yeah, well, thank you, Judy. Excuse me. Welcome, everyone. If this is your first time joining us, you'll notice that you're muted, and you're going to stay muted throughout the duration of the meeting. The only folks who will be unmuted at any given time are our two co-chairs, Judy and Felice will be joining us momentarily, and any presenters as we move through the agenda. Following each of the presentations, as we go through the agenda, the co-chairs will call on members of the public who wish to speak. You can participate by going to the reactions icon on your screen and pressing the raise hand button. Only press it once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down. Look for the button that says raise hand. It's not the thumbs up or the wave. Those will disappear and we'll miss you. If you're calling in from the phone, it's *9 to raise your hand or *6 to unmute whenever you're called on. Be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once one of the co-chairs calls on you. If you're having problems, the chat is available for technical support to help with the Zoom software. It is not to ask questions of the presenters or the co-chairs. They will never see those chats. If you're using an older version of Zoom, you'll need to go to the participants section where you'll find the raise hand feature there. And finally, we encourage you not to wave at the screen or raise your actual hand in trying to get our attention. We're going to miss those probably, and we will not be able to call on you. So if you're having problems, chat me. I'm here to support. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Judy and we can get started.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm Judy Schneider. I'm co-chair with Felice Farber, who's on her way. She's been detained at a business meeting. So let's get started and she'll catch up with us. The first thing I'd like to say is if anyone is here tonight to discuss pickleball, this is an issue that my co-chair and myself have spent a lot of time talking to the Parks Department about this month. And next month in January, we hope they will be coming to us and they will be giving us what they have set up for rules and regulations concerning pickleball and concerning Community District 8 and how we can spread this event throughout other parks in the district. So we welcome you all to stay for the meeting. We're happy to have you, but we are not going to be discussing that item tonight. It will be in January. At the very latest, if they can't make it January, it will definitely be February. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our first item, which is a temporary public art proposal for the Park Avenue malls at 68th Street. And I believe Elizabeth Marcella, who's with the New York City Department of Parks and is the Senior Public Art Coordinator, she will introduce the project. And I don't know, Elizabeth, if any of the other people are here. If they are, would you introduce them as you go along?
Sure. Yeah, I have one co-presenter named Rachel Treader who's here, and I'll just give you a very brief overview of our program since it's been a little while since I've been here, and then we'll speak about the artwork itself after that. So if you're ready, I'm happy to start. My name is Elizabeth Masella. I'm the Senior Public Art Coordinator at NYC Parks. I oversee the Art in the Parks program, which programs temporary public artworks in parks citywide. I'm in all 5 boroughs. We work with sculpture, murals, fence installations. All projects that are exhibited through our program are funded by the artist or their representative or any partner organizations that they're working with. We unfortunately do not have any funding available to us for our program. But that being said, we do regularly permit probably 50 to 60 projects a year. Temporary public artworks can be on view for up to a year, though many are much shorter than that. All projects, the maintenance is the responsibility of the exhibitor, as is providing general liability insurance. As is the case at Park Avenue, because of the train tunnel below Park Avenue, we also require engineered drawings for each project that happens here, which we share with the MTA Metro North engineering team. So we just want to ensure that the artwork is going to be safe. It's not going to create undue stress on the train tunnel below. The last time I was at CB8, was for 2 projects we had in 2021. One was a sculpture by Zhu Zhen, which was presented by the Asia Society on Park Avenue at East 70th Street, and that was from March to June of 2021. And also a small project by an artist named Joanne Howard, which is called The Elders, and she made little brass sculptures made out of carved apples. Those were in Carl Schurz Park from April to November 2021. And tonight I'm here with my co-presenter, Rachel Tretter from Nara Rossler, the gallery that will be handling this installation, with also some involvement with the Americas Society, which Rachel can speak more to. The artwork will be in front of the Americas Society, which is at 68th and Park. The artwork will be installed from March to September 2023. It is a weathering steel sculpture by a Brazilian artist named Raul Morao, and we have visuals to share. And as I mentioned, it has been fully reviewed by the MTA Metro North engineers. They looked at stability, wind loads, etc., just to, again, ensure that there would be no stress on the train tunnel below. And I guess with that, I will turn it over to Rachel to share some images of the work and just speak a little bit more about the artist in this particular work. And I guess with that, Rachel, you can take it away.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? Okay, great. My name is Rachel Tretter. I'm a director at Nara Rossler Gallery, Raul Morao's representing gallery, also a former resident of this community board area. So on behalf of the artists in the gallery, we're excited to share this work with you. The project was initiated by Americas Society. They approached us, as well as the art historian Julia Herzberg, who collaborates with the Fund for Park Avenue Sculpture. They were both familiar with this artist and sort of asked that we help present this project on Park Avenue. Raul Morao is a Brazilian artist. He was born in Rio de Janeiro in 1967. He studied in art and architecture there and is part of a very influential group of artists that emerged in the 80s, which was a real time of sort of growth aesthetically and intellectually in Brazil. The gallery has worked with this artist since 2010, when he had his first solo show with us. And in general, his work is concerned with the architecture of public spaces and sort of how it dictates our relationship with buildings and with each other. So a lot of time he references traffic bollards, window grates, construction materials, and reconfigures them in ways that are kind of playful and engaging. So a lot of his sculptures, or almost all of his sculptures, can be kinetic, and they're powered by hand. They also are perfectly calibrated, so they just stay static when not interacted with. And so he developed this piece specifically for this project. As we've gone on, we've sort of calibrated it to make sure it's safe for public display. He's shown throughout Brazil in public spaces, and we also have shown him at a number of art fairs nationally and internationally, including Art Basel Miami, the Armory Show, and he's a really integral part of the gallery's program. So that's my initial intro.
Okay, before we go to questions, let me ask you 2 questions. I didn't get the name of your gallery.
It's Nara Roesler, Nararoesler. It actually, until very recently, was on the Upper East Side, but we've just relocated to Chelsea. And the gallery was originally founded in Brazil. And
Okay.
continues to have locations there.
And then I have one other question. When you said it was kinetic, does that mean that these drawings that we're looking at, that if the wind comes, they actually move?
It doesn't move in the wind. It would have to be actively pushed by a person.
Oh, so the vibration from the train tunnel below, that is not going to make the statue move.
Not beyond, like, it might sort of slightly within the confines rock, but it wouldn't extend beyond the borders of the sculpture.
Okay. All right. You've answered my questions. Will you help me? If anyone has any questions, please push the reaction button. And will you help me if there are any members of the public and give me the order of the board members for the questions?
I will, yeah. So like Judy said, if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment about this, look for the reactions icon at the bottom of your screen and find the raise hand button there. Right now, I'm not seeing any hands up from the public. We just have Sahar and Michelle from the board.
Okay, let's start with Sahar. It's so nice to see you at our Parks meeting. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's amazing. I mean, thank you so much for this amazing presentation. I just had one quick question that you mentioned that if someone pushes, it will move, right?
Mm-hmm.
So since it's in a very public place, it's on the Park Avenue, there would be people, especially kids, going back and forth. Can it be dangerous for, like, if there are a group of kids going and if one pushes and the other one, can they get hurt? How much, like, how further can it move? Does it remain within? Because as far as I can see in the picture and the other picture that you showed at the park, like,
Mhm.
the avenue, it showed that someone can step in. So what if there are like 3 kids, one steps in, the other pushes it, they're just being silly? Can it be something that someone can get hurt with?
No, in the sense that it doesn't shift where it require like more than 500 pounds, or a lot more than 500 pounds. It won't shift where it is on the top. It just would act sort of like a swing on the bottom. We added bars so you can't climb in it. And it's also going to be installed in a flower bed. So it would not be encouraged that people interact with it. If they do, it's all of the engineering is prepared such that there's it doesn't have a large swing and it doesn't shift or tilt.
How,
It's
so
designated.
do you have precisely how much it would swing? Like, do you have the details for that, how much it would swing? And is there a possibility of making it static, that kind of barring it, that it doesn't move at all, but remains? I mean, it's a beautiful structure, but not having that option at all,
Mhm.
such a public space. So just to make it very, make it very safe for the neighbors.
I mean, we could add something like that. I've discussed it with the artist. It would be counter to the original intent of the work. And we've displayed these most recently at our Basel Miami which is exceptionally crowded and had school groups coming through. We had children running through the middle of the work, which I don't want to encourage, but was not an issue.
Yeah, I think we're not going to highlight that it's kinetic, and just for reference too, it's over 2,000 pounds total, I think. So if you think about that weight, it would take considerable effort to make it really move and swing. Each part, I'd imagine the top part is the heavier part. So it would be, considerable weight there. And also, just in general on Park Avenue, because of the way it's laid out and where these are, like, we have not had too much of an issue with public interaction, whether that be vandalism, graffiti, climbing, etc. I think people tend to be generally pretty respectful. But it also is designed and engineered so that, it's not going to topple over. It's not going to swing really far out that it becomes really dangerous, especially also it's, in the middle of a roadway.
Yeah,
Rachel, you mentioned something to Sahar's answer about you would put in bars, or there would be bars. Where were you?
So there's this that it adds weight and you can't climb in it. It helps, keep the work as a safe piece.
Yeah. So there are no bars other than what we're looking at.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, I didn't quite understand that. Thank you.
In this rendering, there aren't bars there, but that was just a rendering. So there are bars.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Michelle will be next. Michelle?
Yeah, thank you. Well, to pick up, those were exactly my concerns that Sidar had spoken to, but I have additional concerns, but again, they're safety concerns. What are let me first find out, what are the dimensions? The weight of it, you answered, is around 2,000 pounds. Is it made out of steel? Is that what we're looking at? And what are the dimensions?
It's made out of steel, and it's in excess of 2,000 pounds. So it's much heavier than that. Rachel, I have some numbers here, which is about 17 feet in height, 8 feet wide, and 6.5 feet deep.
Mm-hmm. In width. And you said that your signage, because that was one of my questions, is your signage about the work going to say that it's kinetic, or are you going to leave that out of your description completely?
I think that's something we can discuss. If we feel that we don't want to attract that kind of interaction, we can leave that out. Mm-hmm. And we did have actually a number of kinetic sculptures further down Park Avenue earlier this year by George Rickey, and we didn't have, they were different in form, but we didn't.
Well, those are thinner, so they're not so inviting. My concern here is, and there was another sculpture a while back, a couple of years ago, that I had the same concern with on Park, is some mischievous teenagers in the middle of the night. To me, this is an invitation. This just looks like a really enticing activity for a bunch of kids. Bigger kids, kids that would not necessarily be escorted by adults. I'm not worried about the little ones because they'll be monitored, but the big ones who are out wandering for a night might find this very, very enticing to attempt to climb. You did say that it's bolted. You did say that you have insurance about that. Maybe the likelihood of it moving on its own or with a push is diminished because of its weight. But I remain very concerned that it's an invite for climbing. And because it takes up the width of the mall, anybody who climbed on it, if they slipped or fell, they would actually be in traffic. So I'm very worried about this. I don't know if Sidar clearly has a similar concern. I don't know if others do, but that would be my reservation about it. Thank you.
Yeah. And just to that point, we have had a number of sculptures on Park Avenue that would be technically climbable, and we haven't had those issues, as well as Rachel noted, this artist has exhibited work all over the world in public spaces. that's the last thing we want to happen, but we do our best to, make sure it's going to be sturdy, and Park Avenue isn't a site where we've, I think seen that kind of interaction. Not to say that it's not possible, but, I feel like technically any artwork might invite certain interaction for better or worse.
Elizabeth, is it possible to make this so it is not kinetic, so that it is permanently placed with no movement?
That's something we can discuss.
I think that the three of us that have spoken so far would feel more comfortable with that. And should somebody decide to climb it, as Michelle said, it would be better if the thing did not move. Less chance of an accident. Even though the artist is going to have insurance and everything, we still, don't want to put up anything that would cause a problem. I see Rita has her hand up. Rita?
I think this is really very interesting, but I have a question. How is it anchored to the ground? I mean, it's right now on dirt. What is underneath there? Dirt, the earth. How is this anchored so that it is steady? We're sort of used to more of a pedestal enforcement. So could you explain how you're going to anchor this?
Yeah, so we employed an engineering firm, Gilstans Murphy Stefanik, that also addressed a lot of the issues with if somebody climbs on it, all of the weight and calibration that's been signed off by these engineers factors in that possibility, even though, as we said, we don't want to invite that. That also includes the work will not require any concrete. It'll have a metal base plate that will be under a few inches of soil, but it's self-supporting with its own weight. And it's also engineered to be resistant to hurricane force winds. It's really a very sturdy, solid structure.
Thank you.
Does anyone want to make a resolution?
Sahar has her hand back up, so maybe
Okay,
that's.
I can't tell because none of the hands went down, so Sahar.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if about the resolution, if I have the right wordings, but I definitely want to say that that this should not have the word, like, when we have the structure out, it should definitely not mention about the movement that we were discussing. That should definitely be taken out so that people are not even thinking on those lines. So that's definitely important. I wasn't going to really kind of give the wordings for the resolution. This was one point that I just wanted to add. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. And I wrote down the first whereas there will be no movement. I think if we're going to approve it, I think that needs to be a stipulation of approval.
Right.
I do want to add,
Would you, Rachel and Elizabeth, would you both agree to that?
I would need to go back to the artist. He might not be comfortable continuing with the project if that element is removed from it. That possibility. So I can't really give an answer without speaking to him first.
Okay, let me ask you a question that we didn't ask. When was this artwork going to be installed, and for how long were you planning to keep it up?
March 2023 to September 2023.
March, okay, for a year.
No, for 6 months.
March 23, 6 months, okay. Committee members, if that were to be a stipulation that the artist and the gallery agreed to, are we approving this with that stipulation? Michelle? Michelle? Will, can you unmute Michelle?
Thank you. I'm not comfortable because of the climbing. That is helpful, that it won't be movable, but I'm just wondering, I think it's very enticing. I think a sign, could you do a sign that says no climbing? I'm sure you
Yeah,
can. Whether or
that
not,
does-
yeah, which is helpful, but that may even add more, but whatever.
Yeah.
Is it possible that you can have a camera or even a guard? Because March to September are the warmer months. It's not like it's going to be unenticing because there's snow on it and it's cold outside. It's going to be in the spring through the summer.
So,
So I'm just wondering if you can have, how about an alarm? Some kind of an alarm system on it, that if somebody actually did try to climb, that an alarm would go off and alert somebody? Is that
this is
possible?
something we would have to discuss, and I don't know if, at the American Society, if they, they're across the street, if they might be able to keep an eye on it. Just one other thing to know is we don't typically require a resolution for our projects because they are very short term, but we're happy to address the concerns that were brought up this evening.
Well, let me just say that in terms of an approval, I would like it, if I would like it contingent on that. So I don't know
And
how.
which, Michelle, you've
Well,
mentioned a number of things
Yeah,
here.
contingent on an alarm and monitoring it. Now, I don't expect the society to have a 24-hour guard there. That's probably unrealistic. A camera would be good, but it catches something after the fact. So that's not necessarily helpful. But what would be helpful is a surrounding alarm. So if anybody gets too close to it, an alarm goes off into some, a monitoring system that could address the issue at that time. That's really the only way I would be comfortable with this. So I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but it's very enticing to me. If I were a teenager, I would think this would look like a lot of fun to climb. So those are my thoughts.
Well,
Thanks.
I have a suggestion, but let's call on Barry first and see what he has to say. Barry?
Yes, good evening. Thank you. There are all kinds of issues in the city, not issues, but availability to climb. I'm thinking of St. Catherine's Park where they have that globe item that doesn't lead people to climb it. They at least people that would appreciate it, enjoy it. And I think we're overstepping the bounds on this piece of art. We can say that we're concerned about it, but I wouldn't put any limitations on it. Thank you.
Okay, well, yes, we could write a whereas. I think we all agree that we would like to see the piece anchored and not move, and have some signage and possibly either an alarm or somebody monitoring it. Rachel and Elizabeth, is that something that we vote on this next week at the full board meeting, all the resolutions we pass here. Is that something that you could get back to us this week, or that you could check with your people on?
Yeah, I mean, the American Society has already agreed to monitor the work during the day. To hire an independent guard would be prohibitively expensive, 24/7.
Okay, so we do have somebody monitoring it.
From American Society, yes, when they're open.
Mhm.
and we,
And they're across the street from the art installation.
Yeah.
Okay.
we also have pre-printed signage that's no climbing is also no climbing on sculpture, and that is fabricated and issued by Parks.
Okay, and I imagine you have the artist's name and all of that information. Okay. Rita?
I agree with Barry, and I have to ask, of all the installations that we've had in the last 15 years, how many people have climbed and gotten hurt on any of the sculptures that have been on Park Avenue? Do we know of any?
I've never heard of any.
I
Our
have
office
been-
has never received anything.
I have never
I-
heard of it. The point is that I think that may be enticing to somebody sitting here, but we have to believe that crossing Park Avenue in itself is taking your life in your hands in certain places. Is that you want to get across as quickly as possible. And this is, I don't see hordes of teenagers advancing on Park Avenue without somebody noticing, but I'm all for this approval, and if there's a question, I call the question.
Well, I don't know if it's still up, but Sahar, did you have something else to add?
I just wanted to kind of say the same, that just as long as we have that signage saying, please don't climb. And also the fact that I think it's not going to remain, it's going to be made static. I think that kind of covers the concern that I had, because I was more worried about not climbing, but kind of somebody by mistake or whatever. I don't know how much, strength is required to move it. But if it is pushed and another person gets hurt, that was my concern. So I feel like if we have that signage that says that, and it is made static, I feel like this is a beautiful structure, and I would vote for it then. So that was my thing.
Okay, I think we've covered all the issues, so this is a good evening, Felice. And this is a motion to approve with the whereases, which you will get back to me with, Elizabeth, tomorrow or the next day if you can, that the sculpture will remain static, and that also the American Society will be monitoring this during the day when it is opened. All those who are not in favor of this or not voting for cause, would you please raise your hand? Sahar, your hand's up all the time, so if you can lower it. Okay, now the only hand I see is Michelle. Is that correct, Michelle?
Yeah, I'm going to just abstain until we get the answer before the full board.
Okay, and
Because
if,
I'm not sure about this, so I'll wait to
okay,
hear what
if
they
they
have to
call
say.
me this week and say they can make it stable, will you change your vote to a yes for the full board?
Yeah, I might. I'd also like to hear whatever else they have to offer about security. Whatever else, because I know you have to take it back to the gallery, to the artist, etc. So whatever additional information you can offer at the full board, I would be very happy to hear. Thank you.
We'll try and get that information as soon as possible. I just want to preface, I'm out of the office Friday and Monday, but I'd be able to follow up when I return on Tuesday.
Okay, our meeting is Wednesday night, so that would be good.
Okay, and if I'll try and get as much information as I can, but it will take some back and forth on some of the items, but the signage is an easy one.
Okay, so we'll put you down as an abstain, Michelle. And when we get information, I'll make sure that you get it before the meeting. And then at the meeting, you can change your vote. Felice, I don't know if you want to vote, if you heard enough of the discussion to vote.
I didn't hear enough of the discussion to vote, so I apologize.
Okay, so then we just have Judy, Rita, and myself and Sahar as voting yes. Is that correct, Will? And Michelle.
And Barry.
Oh, and Barry, excuse me, as a public member voting yes. I forgot about that.
You might get in trouble later if you do that.
Yes, I know. I can hear it from the other room. Okay, and Michelle is abstained. Okay. All right, now We'll move on to the second item. Will, is Keisha Smith from the Manhattan Borough President's Office here?
She is. It looks like she has a very special guest with her.
Yes, I do. Hi, everyone. Hello,
Where-
I'm Keisha Smith with BP Levine's
Oh,
team here with our guest of honor, my daughter Kaya. She wanted
how
to.
old is she?
She's 1. She just turned 1.
Ah,
Want to say hi?
I'm so glad she can attend her first community board meeting.
Yes. Yes. Say hi. Meet hi. And I am also joined by Emily Maxwell from the Nature Conservancy, and she's the director of the New York City program, and she'll be leading our presentation this evening. And we are all here to talk to you all about our office's Million More Trees initiative. And I will pass the mic over to Emily, who will take it from here.
Thank you so much, Keisha, and thank you to the board for having us tonight. And thank you to Keisha's beautiful baby for setting the stage for our discussion of trees and New York City's future and for the next generation. Is it possible that I can share a screen? Thank you so much, Will.
Yeah,
I will.
Go ahead. No. You
Okay,
can.
beautiful. Thank you. And I just want to make sure that you all can see it. So as Keisha said, we're here to talk with you tonight about trees in New York City. The urban forest is what we call it. We're here to talk about overall the New York City urban forest agenda and also the Manhattan Borough President's Million More Trees campaign. Just briefly, I'm with the Nature Conservancy. We're a global conservation organization. We work to conserve the lands and waters on which all life depends. And we have a cities program that's largely focused on helping the city to cope with the impacts of climate change, knowing that we have a lot more extreme heat days to face and a lot more inland and coastal flooding. So one of the biggest solutions, not only to climate issues, but also to improving the beauty of our neighborhoods, improving the safety of our neighborhoods, helping us feel better, both physically and mentally, is the urban forest. And for that reason, the Nature Conservancy has an initiative. We focus on science, partnerships, and policy to really uplift the urban forest. Some of you might know that where we have more vegetation, when we look at the map on the left, for example, the darker green portions, we have cooler temperatures on hot summer days. And with those increasing heat days, we really want our streets to be cooler. That extreme heat can cost us more in air conditioning. It can make our streets less pleasant to walk on. And it can have actually direct health effects, especially for older folks who are more vulnerable, and Black communities and low-income communities. So our urban forest spans all of New York City. It cuts across public and private property. It has over 7 million trees in it. And it does all these things that I've just told you about. It cleans our air, it cools our streets, it beautifies our neighborhoods. But when we look at how the canopy is distributed across the city, we can see that it's not even. So we know that Manhattan is sort of middle of the road, whereas, the Bronx and Staten Island have a lot more tree cover. And of course, Queens and Brooklyn do have less. It's been really wonderful to see the call from all 5 borough presidents for 1 million more trees, as well as the City Council Parks Committee Chair, Shaker Krishnan. So we do know that our canopy is growing in a lot of neighborhoods, but where you see reds and yellows and oranges on the map on the right, that's where we've seen some significant loss in tree canopy between 2010 and 2017, which is the period of time for which we have data. That really is largely driven by extreme storm events, but there are other reasons for tree loss too. And so I just wanted to let you have a deep dive into Manhattan, and we can see that here in Community District 8, you all are kind of also middle of the road in terms of tree canopy, hovering right smack in the middle, whereas there are some areas that definitely have more and some that have less. But interestingly, I'll note that you do have the capacity to add somewhere between 3.5% and 6% more canopy to your community, which can have significant cooling and beautification and health benefits, again, across public and private land. And you could do that without ripping up any hardscape, is the interesting story. If you wanted more than that, you would need to come up with creative solution, streetscape redesign, really consulting with your own community about what your desires and goals are for the neighborhood. But we know the biggest question about that we get, and we share this question, is, well, what happens if we plant more trees? Are we going to take care of them well enough? And so our coalition, the Forest for All NYC Coalition, is calling for more funding for the Parks Department and for other city agencies for both planting and maintenance. I'm going to kind of breeze through that slide and just jump right into the coalition that we help lead, which is called Forest for All NYC. We envision a healthy urban forest that justly and equitably delivers its benefits to all New York City residents. And we are a very large coalition. So obviously you can't read this entire list in just the moment that I'm with you, but we have landscape architects, we have the Real Estate Board of New York, we also have We Act for Environmental Justice, we have multiple city government partners who they are not lobbying members, but they've consulted with us. We have academic institutions, we have neighborhood organizations, and we have an incredible partnership, of course, with the Manhattan Borough President's Office. The urban forest just isn't about trees alone. It's about health and well-being. It's about adapting to climate change. It's about social justice. It's about communities accessing nature. And yes, it is also, of course, about a healthy distribution of plants across the city. So we released the New York City Urban Forest Agenda. Currently, the city is at about 22% canopy cover, as you saw in my earlier map. Our goal is for the city to commit to achieving 30% canopy cover by 2035 equitably. And a big part of that would be the Manhattan Borough President and all the borough presidents' call to plant 1 million more trees while also maintaining and protecting those that we have. You can access the Urban Forest Agenda online. It has a lot of different actions ranging from planting and protecting trees to making sure we have an adequate workforce and funding to really do that. So what Keisha and I are really here today is Keisha has shared with you, or the borough president, I'm not sure from whom it came, a draft resolution about the urban forest that we are really socializing across different community boards to get, ascertain your interest, hear your concerns, hear how you might want to adapt it for your own neighborhoods. We're hopeful that many community boards will pass a resolution about the urban forest. So we're here tonight to provide information. We can help educate your larger board. We can send you to, lots of information at our website. We have great social media, and we, really are ultimately asking for you to support Million More Trees and also endorse the New York City Urban Forest Agenda. So I just want to close with my contact information and website. I can also send this as a PDF if that would be helpful after the meeting. And so let me stop sharing my screen and Keisha, hand it back to you if there's anything you'd like to add.
Emily, thank you so very much for that presentation. And I absolutely would like to echo what Emily just mentioned. This is a collaborative effort, not only with our office, but with Forest for All and all borough presidents. Our goal is to get resolutions passed at all 12 community boards by year's end and subsequently citywide. So we are here tonight in hopes that you would support this initiative, and then also encourage your other board members to do the same, as we know how extremely important trees are to this city. And we would be happy to take any questions if anybody has any.
Before we start with the questions, could I just ask Keisha and Emily to be sure that Will has your email addresses in case Felice and I need to get in touch with you after this meeting? Okay. All right. Are there any members of the public who have any questions? Will, you're going to have to help me because my screen doesn't really work well with this. The only hand I see up is Rita's.
Yes, and I'll just remind everybody that they can participate by going to the reactions icon on their screen, excuse me, and pressing the raise hand button so that we see your hand go up and then you can get unmuted. So right now I do only see Rita and then Sahar.
Okay, Rita, let's hear what you have to say.
What earliest?
Rita, before you start, let me just say that Felice and I looked over all of this information before the meeting, and we went to the Nature Conservancy and we read a lot of stuff, and we wrote a short resolution, which we'll be presenting after the discussion is over. And if anyone wants to make any additions or changes, Felice and I are happy to hear that. Go ahead, Rita.
One of my earliest memories is an assignment that Judy gave to the committee, was to go out and scan the neighborhood and write down where trees are missing or whatever. And we then gave that to Judy. And I have to tell you, in her usual fashion, that the side streets now have more trees than they ever had before. We can plant the trees, but there are still so many tree guards and so many trees that are put in that are not protected from pets. And, we do have an increased dog population, and they seem to love trees, and their owners don't seem to find that a problem. I do. So it's not only that we're planting trees, is there money being put aside on how we keep them and protect them?
Thank you so much for that great question. And I'll also just take a moment to thank Judy for the time and effort that you and it sounds like Felice put into doing some background research and to crafting your own resolution. I'm really buoyed by that. So thank you. Rita, I think it's a great question. And we wholeheartedly agree that, part of the reason I believe, not to speak for Keisha, but that the Manhattan Borough President, all 5 borough presidents, Shaker Krishnan from the Parks Committee and the Forest for All NYC Coalition joined forces is because we want to see both that additional planting and we want to see that care, maintenance, and protection. And just quite candidly, the city has, not been funding this significantly enough. And there's also an opportunity for tree expansion on private property. And so I think part of our appeal to you all is I think we need to have a voice. We know actually that New Yorkers love their trees. And I'm so inspired that you all went out in your own neighborhood, identified potential locations and planted those. So different communities do need different things. Some need more care, maintenance, and protection. Some have more opportunities for increased planting. It's not a one size fit all, but I just really want to underscore that I think we're fully aligned with you on your call to action, and we want to support that.
Sahar?
Yes, thank you. This was a great presentation, and I'm definitely for planting more. So I'm so excited that this is going to be this is on the agenda, and we'll be, we're going to do this. My only question was, where are the resources coming from? And I think Rita has touched on that, the resources to plant, then the resources to sustain. And if you're asking that private individuals are, they also plant, is there some kind of help or some kind of subsidies or some other element offered so that people are encouraged to do so? I'm just asking about the financial aspect. Where are the resources? How much are the resources? And how are they dispersed amongst the community? So people in our community, various people, how will they kind of get to it?
That's a wonderful question. And there's some really positive news. So there's not, one perfect answer for that yet. I want to be open with you. I think part of this call is to create enough of a demand so we really can mobilize funding. But the really great news is both at the federal level, in the Inflation Reduction Act that recently passed, there's actually $1.5 billion for urban forestry activities. Now, that's not all for New York City. That will be shared with other cities. But so that is a pot of money that the city doesn't just have to go to, it's tax-based, but we can actually apply for those funds and draw funds in. There also recently, I don't know if you will be as familiar with this, but many of you might be, there was a state bond act that was recently passed. It was called the Environmental Bond Act. Most people refer to it as like the Clean Water and Jobs Bond Act. So it has recently passed, and it has a large amount of dollars, and I'm not going to get it perfectly right. I think it's about 150 million, but it's a large amount of dollars available for projects that are urban forestry focused, and much of that we believe could come to New York City. So the city does, it's a sort of opportune moment for the city to try to make a plan like this, because there are dollars to draw upon. Now, I also want to say there will also need to be, the city will need to make its own commitments. Those operational expenses, whether it's at the Parks Department and or other agencies, they will also be needed. But I think that there's there are great resources out there right now to support this.
And would they be, thank you so much for, this detailed answer. So would there be also something available for for individuals? But I understand parks would get that budget, and, if you're doing it on the streets, that would be, but just to encourage even, homeowners, and we do have quite a few in our area. Would there be an initiative that we can offer, because that just makes things happen more and faster?
Absolutely. So some of our partners in the Forest for All NYC Coalition have been very invested in ongoing tree giveaways. So the incentive of, here's a great healthy tree that you can plant. But some of us in the coalition are also working on policy approaches. And it is our sort of belief that, as with any private property initiative in New York City, you need regulations, but you also need carrots, you need incentives. So I'll just say my side job is I work on green roof expansion. I won't drag you through the details on that, but we worked hard and we were able to secure a tax abatement for developers to install green roofs on their homes. There's no reason there couldn't be something similar, or that, for example, Con Edison could come up with an abatement program for ratepayers. That's actually something we see in a lot of other cities. So we don't have a perfect answer, but we are trying to explore solutions, because we do know that the private sector needs to be activated. And, some of our members are in the private sector, and we know that this is an issue that matters to everybody.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I'd just like to make a comment, getting back to what Rita said. Another hat I wear is the East 60s Neighborhood Association. And I am right now writing up the tree survey that our association has done for the East 60s. Now, last year, we reported over 150 dead or missing trees in our area. And when I spoke with the forestry department last month, we're getting, between the fall planting now and the spring planting, out of that 150, we're getting 40 trees. So there's a lot of room on our city streets to put more trees. The problem is that parks the trees have become so expensive when parks puts them in. They don't have the funding. They also don't have the funding. For instance, if you call them and you tell them trees need I'm also a citizen pruner, so I've been trained in pruning. They need high pruning, and they only have so many pruners that the Parks Department can pay to come around. They'll take care of a problem with trees in a park quicker than they'll take care of something in the street, unless it's detrimental. So funding is really important. It's really important to train people. It's really important to get this program started. And hopefully some of these grants that you're talking about, that the city council will put some of that money into the Parks Department, so that this could become a reality, and also so that they'll be able to plant more than 40 trees in our area when we have all these dead and missing spots. And there are so many of our neighbors that ask us, they want trees. One woman is getting a tree she's been asking for 15 years now in front of her business on 2nd Avenue. And I was so thrilled to be able to call her when I looked at the list to say, you're getting a tree either this spring or in the fall. I'm not sure. I just got the list. And she was just thrilled. So it really is a question. It's a question of money and getting the program put together. So I particularly really appreciate Keisha and Emily, you're coming to bring this project forward. Felice, I don't know if you have anything you want to say on this before we call on Rita again. Her hand is up.
No, I just want to thank you for the presentation. I think this is terrific, and thank Judy for all that she does to advocate for more trees. I am looking forward to becoming a citizen tree pruner as well. So you'll see me out there, not with a hacksaw, but whatever is appropriate.
Yeah, we use those too to cut up the stuff we take down.
I will note, I too am a citizen pruner, so it's nice to be in good company. I encourage anybody who's interested, please join. And I'll also note that Forest for All NYC does accept new members. And when you say the East 60s Block Association or Neighborhood Association, the West 80s Neighborhood Association is one of our leading members. And so one thing we've been able to do is help network people who are working in different neighborhoods, because I will say it's inspiring to see the leadership in so many neighborhoods on trees issues. And sometimes you can learn what's happening in another neighborhood. It can help you in your own neighborhood.
So before or right after Rita, perhaps we should share the proposed resolution and then get any feedback on that, if you agree, Judy.
Mm-hmm. Rita?
One of the and Judy will remember that it's been one of my pet peeves, is that when some trees have had to be cut down, that their stumps are left, and therefore there is no other way to plant in that spot, and that it becomes a desert at that rate. So I hope, is there a part of this program that is going to allow for the revitalization of the tree beds, the existing tree beds, in addition to making new tree beds and new trees?
So
Rita,
sorry.
Emily, let me interrupt you a minute. Rita, if you have, let's say, a tree bed outside your door that has a stump in it, you can call 311 and report it to Parks and tell them the condition, that the stump is there, there's Belgian block or planting, or there's an enclosure. They want to know what the condition is of the tree bed. Then it goes on their list. And some of you may have noticed, if you look at the sidewalks, particularly on the avenues, 2nd Avenue, 3rd Avenue, they've started increasing the size. The Parks Department, as part of their planting program, has started to increase the size of the tree beds, because we all know as the older trees get bigger, the roots pull up the pavement. So therefore, they're now starting to make the tree beds 10 feet. And Rita, when they replace that tree that you've reported outside your door that has a stump, the Parks Department, that's part of the cost, why it's so expensive. They have to remove the existing tree stump and whatever's there. And then if the bed is a very small bed, they have to enlarge it. So that all adds to the cost every time we get a tree planted. I'm sorry, Emily, I didn't mean to.
No, Judy, I mean, you should give my presentation. I love this. I feel like usually people don't talk to me about stump removal. I'm very proud to share that last year, Forest for All NYC successfully advocated for the restoration of the Parks Department's stump removal budget. And it seems like this very arcane thing, but Rita, to your point, it affects your neighborhood, it affects your community. And so absolutely, we try to think of the tree through its full life cycle, from seedling through death. And one of our actions, our proposed actions, which is not to get too far in the weeds, is what happens to the tree wood, the tree waste, once it is removed. And several of our members are actually doing very innovative work to reclaim New York City's downed trees. And so absolutely, it's a great question. We need to keep pressure on the city to make sure they're still funding stump removal and then tree bed expansion.
Thank you.
Okay, do we want to, Felice, do you want to read the resolution? We have a typo. The year is 2035, not 2030. Do you-
Okay, so the link to the resolution, we'll post it in the chat so folks can take a look at it, but we'd certainly like your feedback. Just to read the proposed resolution. Whereas trees help improve the livability of the city by cleaning the air of pollutants, reducing the impacts of climate change, cooling city streets and buildings, absorbing stormwater, serving as habitats for wildlife, adding beauty and promoting human health and well-being. And whereas the majority of trees on public lands are not protected from being removed, and there is no sufficient budget for their long-term care and no coordinated vision or plan for their management. And without these policies in place, our urban forest and its many benefits are at risk. And therefore be resolved that Community Board 8M supports the 5-borough president's goal of planting 1 million more trees by 2035, with an emphasis on increasing equity and canopy distribution by expanding tree canopy in the most heat vulnerable communities. Be it further resolved that Community Board 8M endorses the New York City Urban Forest Agenda and supports the implementation of that agenda, including funding for education of tree stewardship programs and encouraging urban forestry careers and workforce. Are there, Michelle, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I had raised my hand before you read the resolution. I'll second the resolution, but that's not what I was raising my hand. What I wanted to let you know, because I, many years ago, actually purchased a tree, and I just wanted to let you know, I think it's still true, because I know when you want a tree, very often there's a very, very long wait, and that it is still possible, I assume, to purchase a tree. I did that many years ago, and while that may not necessarily be the first choice, you know, for anybody, but the fact is that if there's a very, very long way to get one, they can be purchased by reaching out to the forestry of your borough, you know, which is, I think, how I went through it. So I just wanted to get that point in there, but I second the resolution.
Is there, do we know if there is an option to purchase privately purchased trees now?
Yeah,
So
you can purchase a tree. Parks Department, you apply to the Parks Department, they have a procedure. If you want to plant it in the sidewalk, I don't know what the option is for planting it in your backyard. I think that's your yard and you can do whatever you
No.
want.
No, I just wanted
But
to
you're
say,
talking about
this was in a tree.
sidewalk.
Yes,
Yeah,
this
tree
was an
bed.
existing
Yeah.
tree bed, and I purchased a tree for that tree bed in the
Yes.
street. Yes.
Right. The Parks Department has a procedure for doing that.
I posted an article from October that was in the publication The City that walks you through that process. So if you go to the chat, you can find that article.
Thank you.
Okay, Barry? Barry?
And I'm now muted. I believe, I'm not sure that what Michelle said was move to approve.
Yes,
I move to approve the resolution.
I think Michelle said that.
Okay, good. Then I second it.
Okay,
If I get a chance, I'll third it.
let's move on to Rita.
Go ahead, Rita.
Call the question.
Okay, all those who are in favor, all those who are opposed or not voting for cause, please raise your hand. Okay, so then it's unanimous, and I'll just say that's Michelle, Judy, Rita, Sahar, and Barry, and Felice. Barry is the public member. Okay. I don't believe that, Will, am I wrong? I don't believe Sheena is with us tonight.
Sheena is not, but her deputy Lori is. So Lori Knowles is
Okay,
here.
before we have Lori present any update on parks, I see we have Jacob from Rebecca Seawright's office. Jacob, is there something specific that you wanted to say?
Hi, yeah. I have a statement on behalf of Assemblymember Seawright that I will read. So just to introduce myself, I'm Jacob Plattel, the Special Assistant for Community Relations in the district office. It's on 79th Street, New York Avenue, next to the post office, for those of you that don't know. So Assemblymember Seawright could not be here because she's in Albany for session, but she would like to commend the co-chairs, Judy Schneider and Felice Farber, for working on this important issue. She's proud to support the issue being kind of organizing the parks, specifically Carl Schurz Park. Assemblymember Seawright is proud to support the pickleball community and all users of Carl Schurz Park. Thank you to the co-chairs for meeting with the Parks Commissioner to examine all park spaces for opportunities to expand recreation and to improve signage to make parks safer. Our office is ready to offer all the support we can to develop fair rules and strike a balance that works for everyone who enjoys our public spaces. Thank you for giving me time to speak. I know that that's important to us, and wonderful meeting.
Well, thank you very much, Jacob. Please tell the Assemblywoman we think she's doing a great job and we appreciate all she does on our behalf. Okay, and now we'll call on Lori Knowles to give a parks report. If you have anything to update us on, Lori. Can you unmute Lori, Will?
Yeah, she's there.
Hey, folks.
Hi, Lori.
Hey, folks. I'm attending for Sheena. She got called unexpectedly to Gracie Mansion to handle some protesters. And it was kind of very last minute. She was like, can you jump in and please apologize for the fact I'm not there? So she got pulled out very short notice. I do have some notes to share with you. We had a site meeting to plan for the repaving of the multipurpose play area at John Jay Park using funds allocated by Council Member Menon. This would include an accessible ramp at the entrance on the east side and may also include repaving part of the central walkway. We are looking into the feasibility of replacing 2 of the handball courts at John Jay with pickleball courts. We are also planning to replace bluestone pavement in Carl Schurz Park with other funding provided by Council Member Menon through participatory budgeting. Borough Commissioner Perez is working on a plan for adding pickleball courts to Carl Schurz Park that would balance the different uses for the space, including the hockey players and the local schools. He hopes to be able to present this plan to the committee in January or perhaps February. And also, while I was listening to the meeting and you all brought up the trees, I brought up the instructions on how to apply for a tree. The first place you should go is to contact 311, where you will be giving a confirmation number of your request. You can also go to the New York City Parks website to fill out a request. I'm going to be putting in a link into the chat for you guys, the information on how you can obtain that request. The next step, once a request is put in, the confirmation, by the way, number is good to have so that you can get updates on your request and where it is and where it stands. You can submit a request with associated email. You'll receive an email about updates and results about the tree location and inspections. If you prefer not to wait and apply for the free permit to plant a tree on your own, you may do so through a link. And so I'm going to send that information through the chat for you folks, so that would hopefully be useful for you.
Thanks, Lori.
Lori, I have a question for you. When Felice and I were speaking with Steve and the commissioner this week, we talked about possibly the replacement of the handball court in John Jay.
Yes.
Is that included? Do you know? didn't think to mention it at the time. I think
So they are,
council member
per these
gave,
notes.
she gave
Yeah.
a certain amount of money. Is that included in the money she gave?
Yeah, so part of the notes is they're looking into the feasibility of replacing two of the handball courts at this time. But as far as where it stands, I don't have that information
Okay.
right now.
Well, when the commissioner or Steve and whoever from Parks comes to us in January, they'll have answers to
I
all
believe they
the questions.
will, yes, yes, about that, yes, I do.
Um,
January or February.
Yeah,
And-
the commissioner hopes it will be January. However, just so everybody knows, he has a 3-week-old baby. So he's hoping to take the last 2 weeks in December off for
New
vacation.
papa.
Yeah, so he hopes to be ready for January. So if not, it will definitely be February. Does anyone else have, I see we have a hand up from EW, Will?
Whoever EW's iPhone is, will you just announce your name and where you live in the district?
Hi, this is Elaine Reitman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. I live on, I'm in Community Board 8. I'm on East End Avenue. So I just wanted to say that, well, I'm very excited about the tree initiative for the Upper East Side. I think that's fantastic. So I was very happy to hear about all that. And I just wanted to thank Judy and the committee and the board for your consideration. I'm with the Call Shirts Park Pickleball Group, and I just want to say thank you for your consideration and letting us know that the Parks Department was going to give an update in January, and that, you know, we look forward to working with the board and the Parks Department to address the need for having pickleball courts in our area. And I wanted to thank Lori also for her update from the Parks Department.
Oh, you're very welcome. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, so
Thank you very much. Do we have
yes,
any other
thank you.
Will or?
Well, if I could just ask a question for Lori, you said
Sure.
the repaving is of the central walkway or the multipurpose play area?
An accessible ramp at the entrance of the east side and may also include repaving part of the central walkway.
Okay, so not all of it.
It does say part.
Okay,
Yeah, no further than that in the notes, but I could follow up with more detail for you about what exactly that would include as part of the plans.
that would be helpful to know. It was one of our budget requests that this be taken care of.
Sure, certainly.
If you could,
Specifically about how much of the central walkway will be repaved, correct?
Yes. Yes.
you
Yes,
could send
understood.
that to Will, and then we could include it in the minutes.
Sure, understood.
Thank you, Lori.
Sure, you're very welcome.
Does anyone else have any new old business, or do I hear a motion to adjourn? Michelle.
Is that a motion to adjourn, then, Michelle? Yes.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yes, we need a second.
Sahar.
Sahar.
Okay, Sahar's done that. Okay, have a nice evening. Thank you all for coming. It was a good meeting. And want to wish everybody a very happy holiday and a good new year, and we'll see you in the new year.
Thank
Bye.
you.